What's up, guys? Yegi here. We are going to jump into another episode. If you are watching this right the day of, it is Wednesday and we are midway through the week. But before we jump right in, we have a very interesting guest, and I thought he found such a unique angle in coaching, entrepreneurship, and what he's doing currently with his special skills in mentalism. But before I tell you guys more about him, let me give you guys a little quick life update. So recently I celebrated a 4-year anniversary with my husband, and I actually kind of booby trapped him in the gift. So usually we try to do either really nice dinners or like a nice luxury item for birthdays, anniversaries, but you know, an activity goes a long way. And recently we've been talking a lot about mental and physical health and how all of that literally like translates into our health overall. If it's cholesterol, if it's like avoiding a disease hopefully in the future, or even cancer, anything crazy. So I've been really on the mental and physical health thing. So I booby trapped him into getting a personal trainer for a month as his gift. But he also loves unwrapping gifts. That's like part of his love language. And if you guys don't know your love language, that could be a whole other topic, but it's a thing. Check out the 5 Love Languages book and you'll learn a lot about it. But apparently, you know, we all have a different way of feeling love, and that's one of his. So I was like, okay, I need to do something he can physically unwrap. So I got him some gym clothes, and then the personal trainer walked in for like the assessment. So it's pretty funny. But anyways, so that also kind of works with the Yegi Project, because I want to influence the people in my life and you guys, my valued audience, to do to make better choices. You know, with the money we spend, the things we do, spend it on yourself. It goes a long way. So that's what we're doing now, and I'll let you guys know how that goes. He hasn't worked out in a very long time. It is something we've talked about, so I'm not forcing him, but you know, I'm giving the love push from, you know, somebody has to push us. Going back into the episode of what it's really about. So my guest name is Jonathan, and as I mentioned, he's a mentalist. And within the episode, we do actually talk about the importance of mind and body. So those are the 2 things that he also used to really strengthen his character, his unique set of skills in order to be a performer, a mentalist, and now an entrepreneur who is coaching and actually advising people at corporations, sales conferences, at trade shows, and so on and so forth. If you don't know what a mentalist is, because at first I was like, wait, what is a mentalist? Because we know, but we don't know. The way he defined it while I was talking to him was a magician and also a psychic, but not quite, right? So we're performing and acting with our unique set of skills in order for people to think you're a magician or that you're doing magic or you're a psychic. You can read their mind, and that's a mentalist. But he did perform over, I think, 15 years on stage, and he's continuing to perform because that's his love. But he found a way to also make a business out of being a mentalist. So like I said, he is coaching and he has so much valuable advice, and I love the way he found to apply it in a unique way to sales. Anyways, before I give it away, so let's just jump into the episode and he will tell us more about him and how we can apply certain specific skills of being a mentalist to be better entrepreneurs, people, and all of that good stuff. Hi, I'm Yegi. I'm an entrepreneur and success coach who wants it all. Family, luxury, career, and the freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I'll do whatever it takes to get there. I created the Yegi Project to document my journey and inspire others to do the same. My mission is to change the world by influencing and leading others to do what they love and live fulfilled lives. Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today we have Jonathan with us, who is a retired mentalist. Or are you still practicing and you put your own twist on it and applied it in your own coaching and in your own business world, right? So without any more delays, I want you to please fully introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of a background and where you are today in your career and in your life.
You got it. Well, thanks for having me on here. It's always an honor to be invited to share my thoughts. And you're right. I'm a mentalist, which is a kind of magician. So if you think of somebody going to magician college and they graduate with a degree in being amazing, then they go and get their PhD, that's what mentalism is.
Oh,
So
I see. So the
it's a
master
flavor of
magician.
exactly. So it's a specialty in mind reading tricks, like predicting the future, influencing
What
your
am I thinking
choices,
now?
reading your mind. Exactly, exactly. That's exactly it. And and it looks like I'm psychic, that I have the ability to mind read and all of that stuff. But sorry to burst your bubble, it's all communication skills and applied psychology, showmanship, and just having the moxie to pull this stuff off, standing on stage in front of 3,000 people.
Wow.
So that's what I've been doing. I my first paid show was when I was 13 years old to walk around a company's summer picnic for their employees. So I just entertained everybody for an hour, did a 20-minute show and got paid $200 for it. And thought, well,
That
this
sounds
was
great.
fantastic.
As
Yeah, I
a
was like, this is
13-year-old.
awesome. Exactly. And that's why I've been horrifically unemployable ever since.
Wow.
So that's how I made money for a long time, but
Because
eventually,
I'm so sorry to cut you off because the skills you listed, what it takes to be a mentalist but also perform, it's very well rounded. You need to know the psychology, you need to connect with people to be able to communicate well, but you also need to be a performer to make it all sound fun. So it I could see how, you need those unique set of skills which and talent in order to do what you did. So that I could see why you were so desirable
right?
compared
Well,
to,
thank you. I think I'm
yeah.
desirable too, right? Like
Yeah.
that's it.
A
I
very
grew up
unique
as
set of skills.
right. I have a unique set of skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. So that was how I got out of being a poor kid in the mountains of North Carolina. Like my dad worked in factories, my mom was a secretary my whole childhood. So it's not like I came from money or my family had a business and I learned the ropes from there. It really all was learning how to be entertaining and fun and do the mind reading show. And that was the learning grounds for all those skills that took me around the world. So
Well,
I've
how did
performed
you?
in South Korea and everywhere too.
Wow, and you did that for about 15 years, right? You
Mm-hmm.
performed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Question. So how did you get your first gig, or how did you get into it initially when you were 13?
Well, it weirdly a performer friend of mine who taught me how to hammer nails up my nose. That was
Love
it. Like so
it.
so he taught me how to do that, which is the secret is you do it very carefully. That's all. You're really doing it. Like you really are hammering nails up your nose. So that's fun. And he got the inquiry and he was either booked already or $200 wasn't worth it to him. So he goes, I know exactly who you need. My friend
Oh, I
Jonathan,
love
he's
that.
young, just getting started, but he'll be perfect for you. And then that was it.
There you go. That was your fate. And you didn't say no to an opportunity and it led you to where you are today. I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, tell us a little bit of fast forward. So, after starting performing, things are going well. You're getting booked. How did you end up where you are today, focusing on almost combining your unique skills to change the world for the better, so people can have jobs that they love and apply it in the business world, right? I understood that correctly.
Yeah. So to flash forward 7 or 8 years from then, I around 2008 started performing at colleges a lot. So every college pretty much has an entertainment budget because they're nowhere, and then they bring in people like me on a Thursday night to entertain people. So the students know every Thursday night is when the show happens in this venue. So then sometimes they're like, all right, we got the singer songwriter, we've got the comedian. We need a mind reader. Then they would book me. And so starting in 2008, that was the main focus and what I was the most busy doing. And then I get an autograph line after the show. That's very nice. They're like, "Oh, it's wonderful." They don't know I'm not a rock star, but to them I am, right?
Yeah.
So doing the autograph line thing, and I kept hearing over and over again, I'm like, how do you even do what you do? And they meant that from like the mind reading side, but also the business side, because they're like, I was told growing up that I need to get good grades so I can go to a good college to get a degree to get a good job to retire with the gold watch. And here you are, you're
Having
telling me this
fun.
is, yeah, having fun. You're telling me you get to be a mind reader for a job? Like, how that's impossible. So then I would just talk about how I got to be where I was, and then about 2 years after that I start getting emails from students who had graduated or not, saying, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but you came to my school, you talked to me for 10 minutes afterwards, blew my mind. I made a whole bunch
Wow.
of changes, and here's how it helped me." And that was my first inkling that this had value beyond helping people laugh for an hour. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, wait a minute, yeah, okay. These psychological techniques and principles I'd used on myself to believe that I could do something like be a full-time performer. So I realized that I was the first person to brainwash myself, right? And then sharing all of that with the students, okay, it's not just me, it's not just a fluke. This helps other people. So then that was kind of the peak into the coaching world. And then I also started getting some corporate opportunities where I would be the entertainment at their end of year gala banquet, awards banquet kind of thing. And then the people there would be like, "Oh my God, you that was so much fun. Could you teach our salespeople how to be entertaining like you, how to be personable? Because you were so casual up there, but you're doing impossible stuff. So could you help us do that too?" So then that's the start of the corporate consulting. And then that really is kind of how I bridge the gap between being a performer versus a business and coaching consultant.
So that's kind of crazy how in life, when you look back, you're like, wow, it's so awesome connecting the dots of how one thing led to the next. Now, after you got that request, was it that triggered your thought, oh, I could be doing this on a bigger scale or on a different scale to help people?
Yeah, and colleges paid well. They sure pay a lot more than birthday parties. It and even so, companies will invest a lot more if they know it will result in a greater return.
Especially in the
And
sales team, the sales team in a company
exactly.
is huge. It's their bread and butter to bring in customers. So they will pay their
Right.
salespeople well, and they will pay people to train their salespeople well. So that was
Exactly.
very cool how, and usually they hire like motivational speakers, like different type of coaching. So it's cool that you got the offer to have the performer side slash the communication with the mind reading. That's a very cool angle. I like that has never crossed my mind as an entrepreneur. I'm like, that's a cool angle to train a salesperson on.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, if you can help the entire team close 2% more, sometimes if you're selling $1 million deals, that adds up real quick. So that's why I realized, oh, not only could I make more money, it's also that helping a business helps more people more quickly. Because to me, business is one of the most ethical things that we human beings can engage with, because it's the voluntary exchange of time and money and resources. So morality is concerned with the things we choose. So who I choose to do business with, you're not using a gun to take my money like the government does. We are voluntarily agreeing to provide value for each other, and that's how the world gets to be a better place.
Well,
So,
yes, and also for sales reps, it's not that they're forcing you to buy something. The right company, the right sales team, they are seeing if you're the right fit for their product. And I think that's a misconception in a lot of the business world too. It's like, hey, if I'm a salesperson, I'm gonna have to do so many cold calls, force people, lie to people, try to trick them into buying something, but that's not the reality of it. A good sales rep and a good company who trained a good sales rep will teach them to know their product really well and find the right customers where it's a win-win. So although the salesperson still needs to charm the customer so they also know everything about the product they're selling, at the same time, they're doing the customer the favor. Like you said, it's a benefit for the customer to get what they need if it's going to enhance their performance in their life, in their work, or whatnot.
precisely. And I think a lot of the challenge of being a great salesperson is realizing that your lead can't read your mind. And everybody says, I know mind reading's not true. It's not real. However, they believe as though it is, because the salesperson right away knows that the lead is a perfect fit because their business, their revenue, like they fit the perfect avatar. And then the salesperson, because they know they're a perfect fit, sell too early. But their behavior assumes that the lead understands everything.
I
But
see.
they don't. They
I
don't
see.
understand anything. So you have to help your lead understand everything that you understand. So you have to be a mind writer. You need to put thoughts into the head of the lead in such a way that the prospect believes it's their idea about understanding how you can help them. So that's a real cool thing to be able to do.
So, and that all starts with being able to kind of read their mind or at least know what they're thinking so you know how to lead the conversation and plant those seeds in their brain.
Exactly. I
And
was
that's
in
where you come
competitive
in.
debate. Exactly. And a lot of that comes from my time in debate in high school and college. So that was one of my favorite hobbies, was spending my Saturdays going and arguing. Like that was it. And the thing is, you can't help somebody come to your conclusions if you don't understand where they're coming from. And the analogy that my debate teacher taught me was, imagine you need to drop somebody off somewhere. What's the first thing you have to do? Go to where they are, stop the car long enough for them to get in the car with you, then you can drive them there.
Oh,
And
I
most
love that
people
analogy.
start where they are and then drive to the destination and then wonder where they lost the other person.
Oh, I love
So,
that analogy. That's awesome. That
right.
gives a very good visual of the missing pieces in a sales pitch or process.
Exactly. Exactly. So how do you know where they are? Because imagine if they're calling you on the phone and they're like, "Hey, come pick me up." In the day before GPS and the day before texting and smartphones, you would have to ask, "What do you see? What's near you? Can you describe your situation?"
And there comes
And
the
then,
communication skills.
right. So you have to ask enough questions. Is the house red or blue? Is it green? Ask enough questions to find your way to where they are. And now that you have arrived at understanding, you say, I'm on the same page with you. Here's what I understand. You've started this business back then. It was your grandpa, handed it off to your dad. And now you're the one that grew up with the internet. So they're handing off all the digital marketing to you, but you know how to use Facebook, but not for business, all of that. And then they say, holy cow, you understand it. You get it. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Only then can you help them move to the conclusion to hire you. Most
I
people
love
skip
that.
that completely.
I love that. And I'm sure the fact that they understand that you understand them, they already build that trust. They're like, oh, okay, you know what I
Exactly.
need. So I could trust you to help me take the next steps instead of like, oh, this person doesn't get what I need. I'm not gonna, bother with them.
Exactly, because most salespeople who even say they understand, I know I need to understand the lead, don't demonstrate that they understand. All they say is, well, that's very helpful. I understand where you are, and then move on.
Instead of like
So the
reiterating it and explaining it to making sure the customer feels that they understand.
exactly, exactly, because the prospect, the customer, they don't know for sure that you understand them in the way that they understand themselves.
And I think especially as a customer too, if a sales rep comes up to me, if I'm slightly smart or I'm slightly aware that they're a salesperson, my initial like guard goes up. It's like, oh, they're trying to sell me something. So I think
Hmm.
the approach you're talking about, like, if I was the lead, it would definitely work way better on me than if somebody just comes up to me like, oh, I know what you need. It's like, no, 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 you don't know what I need.
Exactly. It's that curiosity to understand that will completely dissolve all of those shields that go up of I know you're trying to sell me on something. The other approach is I am really curious to understand what you're dealing with right now. I want to know. Fill me in. Then that's a totally different thing from, hey, I know what you need. You need one of these, you need one of those, buy this too. And you're like, no thanks. But somebody who is provably interested and curious about helping you, you'll get everything you need to know.
Awesome. Well, let's go back to our questions. I'm gonna dig a little deeper to get to know you before we get in more detailed question about your what you do. So, a fun one is, what is something that people don't know about you?
Something that most people don't know is I love martial arts, specifically Wing Chun Kung Fu. So I've been practicing Kung Fu for years now, and I love it.
And I think I read in your bio you that's what you use for the physical side of things, because I'm a big believer of, our mind and our body need to be really where it needs to be for us to be successful. Can you talk a little bit about that from your point of view? Because the mind reading and the communication and all those skills is what you use to keep your mind where it needs to be. And then you use martial arts for your body, from what I understand. But can you tell us a little bit about more in your own words?
For sure, the most valuable part of it is getting punched in the face. Because I don't care what you think. I don't care how clever you think you are. I don't care how good you think your logical trap is. It does nothing to prevent you getting punched in the face. So, getting punched in the face helps cut through all the fog of over intellectualization and the overactive imagination and the belief of magic of, oh, if I believe this, then this will happen. And all I have to do is send it to the universe, and then the universe will. Nope. You have to know how to manage base layer physical reality. And once you get dialed in to that level, you now have an immutable checkpoint for when somebody's talking ideas. So now there's that filter of somebody's talking through this fantastical, magical, all you need to do is believe and pay me $10,000. Well, would that survive getting punched in the face? If not, then it's not fundamentally useful.
Can you explain that further? What do you mean if that will survive getting punched in the face? Is physically or metaphorically?
Yes, yes, because that physical level is the filter to evaluate whether their metaphorical level is accurate or not.
Is it almost to
So,
like snap you out of it?
exactly. Because the punch doesn't care what you think. The punch doesn't care how you feel. The punch doesn't care what you wish would be happening. None of that is useful. The only thing that's useful is, what do you do? What action are you going to take? Are you going to move out of the way? Are you going to put yourself in a better position? So now, oh, there's your insight into branding and positioning. Where do you want to be?
I
Do you want to
see.
be right in front of the challenge? Or do you want to be behind the challenge where it can't hurt you, but you have all your options?
I see. Oh,
So
interesting.
now, so now you've got that filter of some razzle dazzle marketing guy talking about all these marvelous things that sound like good ideas. But if you took that concept and put it into the context of a punch to the face, would his strategy help me, or would I wind up getting punched?
Oh, I see. I see. Is it going to be one of the things that you can use in front of you as a tool if it's, you moving away, or you using it as a shield, or is it not going to do anything? Okay, I see.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, awesome. Well, we tied back from your personal, what most people don't know about you, to that. But here's another fun one. So you have a mission, but just the first thing that comes in mind, if you can change anything in the world with a magic wand, what would it be?
It would be that everybody alive respects private property and boundaries of ownership, and would never choose to use violence to take what is not theirs.
Oh, I love that. And why that specific? Have you had a personal experience with that, or why do you feel
Yeah,
strongly about that?
because it's called the government, right? If
I will not discuss politics or the government, so we'll leave it at
yeah,
that.
so in any society, when everybody respects private property, everybody prospers, because it's the willing exchange of value and freedom from the use of violence or the threat of violence that helps everybody be better,
Girl.
right? So if there's people who can't own property, slavery, or women who can't own property or can't go to school, that always holds the society back. So the societies that respect personal ownership are the ones that flourish and prosper the most.
I
But the
see. I
societies
see.
that are the most willing to use violence against others, it wrecks everything.
I see. I see. That makes way more sense now. Okay, thank you for explaining that. All right. So one other question I like asking all my guests is the challenge question, because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a human, we all go through challenges in life and in our businesses. But the hardest thing is to be able to get out of that challenge alive and still continue to thrive and grow. Now, for our listeners, I know they're always looking for inspiration and motivation to get through the tough times as well. So what is your biggest challenge in life or in business, and how did you overcome it?
I think the biggest challenge that I've faced so far is letting go of the idea of who I thought I should be. Because for the longest time, I thought, I'm an entertainer, I'm a performer. That's who I am. That's what I do. That's all I do.
You put
And
yourself in a box.
exactly. And that kept me from recognizing other opportunities where I could help even more people longer term. Because doing the show, I help people laugh and forget their problems for an hour. But if I could teach them the techniques that I'm using, I help them solve their issues forever. Now they've got
Yes.
cooler and more interesting problems to work on.
Now, do
So
you miss
that was it.
performing?
I still do a fair amount of it, right? Because
Okay, so
like I
good.
said,
You
one thing
balanced
leads
it
to the
out.
other. So if I get brought in to do sales training, Most of the time, they'll bring me back to MC their awards banquet or be the entertainer. And then they'll
Oh,
be like,
I
some of
love
you
that.
recognize this guy. Or if I get brought in to be the entertainer, a lot of times I go, and also I can teach your teams how to do this. Then it leads. So it feeds into itself, but the training has become a bigger percentage of what I do. And the biggest part of what I do is help companies at trade shows. So that's a mix
How
of,
so?
so a company goes to a trade show to communicate basically three things about why they're awesome to the ideal leads and attendees at that trade show. So it's a way to get in front of the exact people they would have no other way of contacting. So it's really important to do this right. And to do that, they need to qualify them and to see if they're a good fit or not. So, for the couple of months leading up to the trade show, I'm working with the marketing team and the sales team to sharpen their messaging and to help them design a booth that is welcoming and inviting to their ideal clients.
Hmm.
Then I build a custom, about 12-minute entertainment to hide the marketing show.
Huh.
So then
Very cool.
in the trade show, I'm in the booth drawing crowds like I did when I was a teenager. And now I've got 15 to 20 people watching my mind reading show. That's the spoonful of sugar for their marketing messaging.
Yeah.
And then say, if all of this sounds good to you, go talk to these guys. If you're not a good fit, we still love you. Accept this gift from us. Go find your friends and bring them over so we can have a good time.
I
Right?
love that.
So that's how my clients get 5 times as much business from trade shows because I'm entertaining 20 to 30 people every 30 minutes,
Yeah, you're
whereas their sales
attracting the
team,
crowds.
exactly, I'm attracting the crowd, I'm qualifying them, then closing a conversation for after the trade show while avoiding the tire kickers or the bad fits so that the sales team isn't spending
Wasting
$100,000
their
worth of
time.
time following up with folks that aren't a good fit.
Amazing, amazing. That's really mind blowing as a marketing strategy and as putting the fun with the trade show. So I could see how that
Right.
would work like magic.
There you go. It's show business, and most businesses would benefit from a lot more show, and most show folks would benefit from a lot more business. So
You know
depending
what
on
I
which
love?
one,
Yeah, and I love having you as my guest. I love what you do because it's such a unique approach to combine, like you said, to get out of that mind space of, oh, this is what I need to do and that's the only thing I'm good at. I love how you made it something different. You took what you love and you found a different angle of how you could use it to help businesses make money and still have fun with it. So it's
thank you.
amazing, and I think it's very inspiring for other people doing different things, and having kind of like the little spark, oh, maybe I could try to find a different angle with what I love instead of having to find a whole new career, for example. So thank you
Right.
for sharing all of that. I think it's amazing. It's just so creative, even as a career. I love it.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right. So, biggest challenge. So, for you, your biggest challenge was getting out of that box of, okay, I'm only meant to be an entertainer. Let's find other opportunities. Okay.
Right.
Awesome. So, now I want to dive in. Oh, actually, one last question I forgot.
Yeah.
One last question I like to ask. It's always interesting to see what people say. Again, don't overthink it. Just the first thing that comes to your mind as where you are currently in your life. But what does a fulfilling, happy life look like to you? What does that mean to you?
Ooh, control over how I spend my time, who I spend it with, and where I spend it.
Okay.
I
Love
I
that.
don't like dealing with people I don't like. And I
Nobody
I
does,
don't
but They're
Right,
not
but most
smart
people
enough
have
to
to.
avoid it.
Right, most people have to. They're locked into a job that they hate with people that they hate and no other way of making a living, so they get trapped living this private hell. And that
Um,
would be awful to me.
Yes, that is awful. And I think that a lot of people are stuck in that situation, but I don't think they have to. So that's one thing I have to disagree on. I don't think they have to. They just don't know how to get out of it or they've never considered it. So they need people like
Exactly.
us and podcasts like this to hopefully encourage them to make different choices so they can have happier, more fulfilling lives. But
Exactly, because
definitely, I
sometimes
think
you
that's
need
a
to see.
nightmare.
Right, because sometimes you need to see people who have been in your situation and then how they figured out how to get out of it to even believe that it's possible for you. So yeah,
Oh,
you're right.
definitely. Definitely. That's why I love having you as a guest because it's a whole other angle as well to like find opportunities, of how to make money, but have fun with it. All right. So let's dive in to your more specific professional questions. Okay. So the first question I have for you is what inspired you to even become a professional mentalist and what was the process of learning how to do this in order to perform on stage around the world? Did you have to go to school or after, your first gig, you just were searching and learning and trial and error? How did that happen?
There were two people that had the biggest impact. I mean, I went to college to get a degree in painting. So I have
Oh,
a
okay.
fine art degree. So I paint portraits in my free time. Right? Like
Okay.
that's what I love to do is paint. So that's my college degree. So I didn't go to school for mind reading. But the whole time I was still performing and doing shows and stuff. And then I met my two mentors while in college. The first one, his name's James Randi, and he is an amazing person, and that was his moniker, is the Amazing Randy. And he's been in showbiz forever and been there, done that, like hung upside down from a helicopter over Niagara Falls to escape from a straitjacket, like that kind of thing.
Wow.
So
Wow.
getting to know him and then working with him for years and then being friends for 13, 15 years or so before he passed away, he was kind of my master's class in performing an old school magic and how to do it right. The other person was a full-time performer. His name's Brian Brushwood, and I was his tour manager after I graduated college. I managed his tour for 2 years, and I got to see how he handled everything, how he did everything. I asked him a bazillion questions, and answering those questions was part of the deal of me going on the road with him. So he was more the show business side of things to see how to be a successful full time performer and make it work. So Randy was the kind of mind reading side of things, and then Brushwood was the business and magic performing side of things. And then putting those two together, that's how I went out on my own.
That's amazing. So you had two personal mentors who let you, helped you get to where you need to get. I think that's being very lucky, or they must have seen something in you in order to be like, okay, I'll mentor you, because not everybody would just take on a mentee and spend all that time and effort. So did you have to seek them or did they approach you or how did that mentorship come in hand? Because I know a lot of people can benefit from it, but they just don't know how to find a mentor in the first place.
Right. It is that combination of a little bit of luck and being prepared for that lucky opportunity. And the way I like to explain it is imagine I just did my mind reading show and then somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, how did you do that?" I'm like, "Very well, thank you." So that's the first level of getting the brush off. It's like, "I want what you have." I'm like, "I'm sure you do." Right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, fine. The second would be, "Oh, I love mentalism and I want to know more." Like, okay, cool. Here are some books to read. The
That would
third,
be the intermediate person
yep,
who might be interested.
exactly, who says they're interested, but then are you really going to read that book or not? Then the third level would be somebody who goes, "I love mentalism. Here are the books I've read. Here's what I'm working on. And here's a challenge I have right now." Good luck shutting me up. Like I'll
Yeah.
spend hours with that person because they're interested in my life's passion. So of course we're going to connect.
And
So
you see that
if
they genuinely are putting in effort.
exactly they've already invested in themselves and they're getting a return on that, therefore my time will not be wasted investing in this unknown quantity.
Yeah,
So
that
if you're
makes
looking
total
for a
sense.
mentor, go ahead and do what it is that you could do with what you have right now. And then that will show the mentor that you are willing and able to make use of what it is that they have to teach you rather than saying, hey, you're rich, teach me how to be rich. Like,
Yeah, nobody wants their time to be wasted. If they're going to genuinely invest their time into a mentee, they want to make sure it's somebody who is worth it, basically.
right, right. And then the lucky part was that both Randy and Brushwood were booked at the college at one point. So while I'm a student there, that was my in. So Randy got booked as a speaker, and I knew of him through the magic world. So I hounded the person who was organizing his stay on campus. I was like, you know, I'm the magic guy. I have to meet him. Like, okay, cool. You can meet him. And then Brushwood got booked as one of the entertainers for that Thursday night series. So I went to see his show and then let everybody else go through the autograph line. And then I said, hey, I work with James Randi. And he goes, holy cow, he's a hero of mine. So
Wow.
now I'm somebody who is worth knowing.
Yeah.
So then that's how they both happened.
And it does sound like you didn't, it wasn't pure luck. Yes, you might have been lucky to be in that school where they had a presence, but you still put the effort to go to their shows, stand on the sidelines, and actually not be afraid to ask, like, hey, can I get to know you? So I think those are valuable skills and things that our listeners can benefit from that they can use as an approach. Because half the time is just asking. Honestly, people are
Right.
afraid
Yeah.
to even ask. So, and what's the worst that could happen? Somebody can say no to you, but put in the effort, go physically, do your part, as you mentioned before, and see what happens. And in your example, it worked out very well for you, and they were able to be your mentors and basically teach you what you needed to know to have the ideal job of your dreams at that point.
Exactly. Exactly. And
That's
one thing I
amazing.
do
I
like to
love that.
note is from the first day that I met Brushwood, it was 6 years later that I went on the road with him.
So
So it's
you did put in a lot of effort.
yeah, so I stayed in touch with him, cultivated that connection and that familiarity and trust. So it wasn't like we met and then the next day I'm on tour with him. It's one of those things of start as early as you can because sometimes these things take a while and better start today rather than wait.
And it's a building a relationship. You need to build a relationship. It does not happen over time. And thank you for sharing that. I think that time frame is very important to put people's efforts into perspective because nowadays everybody wants instant gratification. They just want to be a millionaire by blink of the eye and they don't want to put in the effort. But it does take a lot of effort, even if you want a really a good mentor that means something to you. So put in the effort, guys. That's the moral of the story. Okay, the next question is about your coaching business. So initially you got into that because you wanted to help more people to do what they love. Now, can you share some stories with us of what you discovered as you got into this, like with your students early on or down the line as they progressed? Did you kind of find a good way to filter through the ones that, we said are not fully ready to be coached, or did you see results no matter what? Can you share your experience with that process?
Yeah, I like to weed people out quickly. And that kind of comes from the kung fu side of things
Yes, I was
because
going to ask, that's a skill. So what can you share about that? Because that is a skill. It's hard for a lot of people to do that. It took me like 8 years to finally get to that point where I'm like, okay, now I'm not going to waste any of my time. Like, give me a day with this person. I know it's worth my effort to invest in them, to hire them or not.
yep. Well, we could go from the kung fu side or the performing side, and I like the performing side for this because I know what I need to do to make this routine successful, where people will clap, cheer, and love the participant I've brought up on stage to make them look like $1,000,000. So the framing is that I'm going to put all of my experience to use to make you look like the hero. And if you fight me on that process, we can't make that happen.
I
So,
see.
so it's helping them understand that if you follow my lead, this will be awesome for you. If not, then go back to your seat.
Yeah, they need to follow the process and not question it until it's done.
Right. So I'm also not going to bring somebody up on stage who's been yelling at me through the whole show. I saw it.
I
I know
see.
what you're doing. Like, yeah, you're not going to be rewarded with my time and attention.
I see.
So
Yeah.
you learn to recognize those red flags of somebody who's going to sign up for coaching and then talk at you about their ideas, looking for you to validate their failure,
Got it.
which is what most coaching clients want.
Yeah, it needs to be actually somebody ready and open to learn without trying to question or get validation on their knowledge. So this is about fully being open to be a student and learn and not just discuss what they know, basically.
Right, right. And on the kung fu side, I always like to say, listen, if I'm more skilled than you, I'll teach you everything I know. If you're more skilled than me, I want to learn everything that you know. And then the
Yeah.
skills play out. And it's always the people who don't have a lot of skill who think they're awesome. And then that's part of the coaching is like, oh, here's what I'm doing. And then when you share your thoughts, you're like, here's my experience, here's how I approach it. Then they argue with you about what works through the lens of their failure. And then they can't see that they're arguing with success with what doesn't work when they are trying to hold on to what doesn't work because that's what's comfortable.
I see.
So you kind of go, look, I'm not here to debate with you. This isn't an argument. This isn't up for discussion. You're literally paying me to explain to you how to think about this stuff. We're not here to talk about what you want to talk about. That's not what this is. And if that's not the process, then there's the door.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious, what changes have you seen in your clients over time, or how long does it take to see results? So, people listening who are interested, let's say I want to hire you as a coach, what results have can they expect, and about what's the time frame for the average student?
That's a lot like asking how long does it take to learn a language. So, a lot of
Just give
variables,
me
but
specific examples then, whatever you want to share.
yeah, when I lived in Chicago, I had an in-person coaching client, and we started learning kung fu together. Like he showed up to a kung fu meetup that I ran, and that was the shape of his coaching was learning kung fu. He was a graphic designer, and then we wound up working together for like 3 years, and in about year two, he said, "Hey, I want to thank you because you helped me get that agency job. You helped me do this. You helped me do that. When I first came to you, I was living out of my car and I had no prospects. I had no idea what to do. And then after meeting you, I was in an apartment, had a high paying job real quick because you taught me how to do that. And that blew my mind. I had no clue that he was effectively homeless when we started working together.
And
So
you guys
that
started
that was a
working
big one.
together through Kung Fu, but does that have like the mentality with it as well, or is it okay, I see.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I really believe in, the mental and physical achievement does lead to success. So I could see how that could happen.
Exactly, because if you learn how to navigate your body in balance with dynamic forces successfully that are high stakes, that experience makes high stake experience like dynamics in more abstract levels easier to navigate emotionally, intellectually, vibe, right? Because now you've got
Yeah.
that physical information to draw from. So it makes it easier to go into a negotiation for pay and then not get freaked out about it. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
I know how to avoid getting punched in the face. What's the worst they could do to me?
And honestly, for those of you who've never been punched in the face, I actually took kickboxing, and the first time I got punched in the face, I was like, "Whoa, what just happened?" It really is just a shock, especially if you're not expecting it, and then you want to do everything to avoid getting punched in the face because you want to feint, you're like blocking out, and it's just a weird thing to get punched in the face.
Exactly. That's why it's such a good teacher to show you
Yeah.
that feeling about it, wishing about it, hoping about it. Oh, all those things that I've been worrying about and spending my energy doing did nothing to help me. I should probably knock that off.
Yeah. Let's jump into change. Okay, change is inevitable, but it's also such a hard thing for people to accept and for people to actually willingly try to change things they're unhappy with. Like we talked about, people that get stuck in the routine of jobs they hate or people they hate, but they're still stuck around them. What advice would you give to our listeners about change and how they can take steps towards it?
Ooh, that is a really good question and something that every single person alive needs to deal with. And at the heart of Buddhism, that's the question that it's dealing with. Because life is change. That is the only constant, that nothing stays the same. And even though pain happens to everybody, the suffering about change is voluntary because you're
Hmm.
holding on to the idea of what you want to happen rather than staying present in the reality of that change. So you wind up suffering about change, which is pain you're inflicting on yourself, ignoring what is real, which is why your own personal illusions are the result or the cause of your suffering. So you can argue
You've
with change all you
explained
want.
that. Yeah, you've explained that very well.
I
Very
spend
well.
a
I
lot of
haven't
time
heard.
thinking about it.
Yes, I haven't heard it explained in that context of the suffering part because of the change and the control we have over that. So thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of us probably needed to hear that. All right, and I know you're short on time. We have a cutoff time in about 9 minutes. So I'll ask you my last question and then we'll do our closing. So, as my last question, I really am curious. So, you've done a lot with being a mentalist and you founded companies, you wrote books. Can you share all of that in a quick summary for our listeners and tell us what your experience was with it?
You got it. It's a lot. In short, it's a lot, and my mind works like I think of one thing and that connects to 11 things that all connect to 20 things each. So it's real easy for my brain to get off track. So the ability to do so much and to make things happen comes from being able to track all of my ideas. So getting
And
to
how do you do that?
I use a program called Obsidian. and it's really cool. I could talk about it for hours, but the thing I value the most is that it uses simple files, markdown files. So it's so simple that I'll always be able to look at my information even if that program evaporates tomorrow. It runs locally on my computer, so I'm not tied to a subscription to some other company. And that means that all my information stays on my computer. It's not going to somebody else's server where they're going to mine it to learn how to sell me ads better. So my tool is not selling my soul to these advertisers. So that's cool. And it's a single database that connects ideas together. So any idea I have, I put it in my Obsidian database. And then when it's time to create something, I don't have to wait for inspiration to hit. I've been spending days or weeks or months putting every idea or thought into the same place. So
Do
now
you
I don't
just
need to wait.
log it? Almost
Yeah,
like an entry, you just log it in there randomly. Ooh, I have this book idea. Let me just type that in really quick.
exactly. Anything I would ever write down, I put in there. And then when it's time to create, I can go, all right, what are my ideas on Kung Fu? And then I've got 1,000 notes about Kung Fu. Now I can put them all into a mind map that's in Obsidian too. So now I can see all the ideas and then go, well, this one connects to that one. Let me put that over there. And I'm a visual person, so I'm putting the things that are similar together, and then I put these over there. And then, okay, this goes before that, so this should be chapter one, and then that's chapter two. This one goes before that one, so this should be chapter three, and that's chapter four. So now I have a visual outline, and then all I
Very
have to
cool.
do is open a new document and then write, all right, here's detail one. Here's everything about detail one. Okay, that leads to detail two. Here's everything about detail two. And suddenly I have a book or a
Wow.
course or a presentation or a
Very cool.
workshop.
I've never heard of a program like that. That's really cool. I'll check it out.
It's
Because it is
phenomenal.
a lot when it's in your head. I'm a pen and paper type of person. I like to see things on paper, but it does get messy or it does feel like it's a lot of extra work if I need to rewrite, reorganize. So
Exactly.
that'll be cool to check out that program. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and I too was a pen and paper. I love this handwritten feel. It's great until I realized I have 9 notebooks at the same time and I never look back through them. And when I did have that, wait, what was that thing? What? Ah, come on. Where was it? I couldn't find what I knew existed somewhere. And now I was spending more time not finding the information that I realized
Yeah,
I have to go digital where I can search in an
better
instant, find
system.
500 examples of it. That was worth making the shift away from handwriting. No matter how much I talked myself into loving it, I knew that it was not a system that served my goals.
Well, especially if you have the goal of a course or a book, it'll be impossible to do it with a notebook
Right,
or
right.
just very inefficient.
Yeah, we've got these amazing tools called computers that have perfect memory, never forget anything, and can find anything anytime instantly.
Tell us about your book. Think like a mind reader. Summarize it really quick for us. It's really cool
Ye-
that you're able to get a book published. Can you talk about it in like a
Yeah.
minute?
Yeah, I took all the lessons that I would talk to the college kids about that they said were so valuable, shoved them into 260 pages, and then that's the book. The meta lesson is the book itself is a sneaky prop that lets you do a mind reading trick with your friends.
Huh.
And the process of learning how to make that look amazing from a simple puzzle to a miracle is the process of becoming a better communicator. That's really the fundamental lesson is I want to help people be better communicators through the process of learning how to pull off that mind reading stunt.
That's awesome. And that's what the book kind of walks you through.
Right, which is why you can't use Kindle. It's not digital. You can't buy a digital version. You can only buy the physical version because that's how the trick works.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, again, thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking with you. If you can just close with your last words of wisdom or encouragement for our listeners and where they can find you.
Well, thank you. The easiest place to find me is icanreadminds.com. From there, you can find my books, you can find my social media stuff. That's the hub that connects everywhere. You can sign up for my weekday emails, all that kind of stuff. The bit of wisdom that has helped me the most through the longest period of time is a Zen Buddhist idea: let go or be dragged.
I love that.
If you're getting dragged around by it, it's because you're holding on to it.
It's time to let go. If you feel like you've been dragging for at least, what, can you give us a time frame? How long should you let it drag?
2 minutes. 2 minutes is too long.
Okay. So if you know, you know. If you know it's something that's dragging, let it go. That's the last words of wisdom. Well, thank you again. It's been such a pleasure having you. And until next time, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.